The creepy playing second base is a hell of a fielder, but his arm's for shit, so they can forget about the double play. My sister Jenna swings a donut bat in the on-deck circle, chewing strawberry gum we found in the drawer of a wrecked house, her Mets cap turned around backwards, her yellow hair flowing in the constant breeze. Seeing her like this makes me happy. She shouts at the Ken up at bat, "You'd better hit the goddamn ball, loser!" Mom would never let that language fly. Jenna's only 10, but I let it slide. Lately, I let everything slide. The creepy's pitcher looks like a 7-foot-tall, furless cat with giant yellow eyes that glow no matter what angle you look at them, and rows of toothpick teeth longer than my fingers. But her arm's the real killer. She struck out 4 batters already, and it's only the 3rd inning. These creepies learn fast. Bottom of the 3rd inning, actually, and the last. 3 innings was all we could coax from these creatures who seemed to be more interested in the strange stars spinning wildly above the field than the game. It's Jenna, me, the Kens and Barbies versus the creepies, and we're down 1-0. The Ken at bat just stands there as the pitch whizzes by. "Strike 3, calls the ump, a 3-foot scaly fish with bat-like wings. His voice is like frogs dying. 2 outs. Jenna throws her bat to the ground. Its clank echoes from the home run walls. "You idiot! You stupid jerk! You goddamn jerk! Why couldn't you hit the ball?" I cautiously approach my sister. Last week she swung at me, got me right in the balls. But I've forgiven her. I forgive everything now. Hey, it's all right. We still have a chance, I say. My hand falls on her shoulder, but she shoves it away. "No, he should have hit the ball, Russell. 3 pitches right down the middle. He just stood there. He's so stupid." The Kens and Barbies are more than stupid. They're empty, literally. They look like ordinary people, except at certain angles you can see right through them, and they glow like streetlights in fog. And they also do whatever you ask them, because there's nothing much left inside to tell them otherwise. It was easy hurting a bunch of them to play this game. I turn her around, lean in to face her. "You're up, Jenna. You can do this." "She's too fast. I'll strike out." "I've seen you hit the ball. You're amazing. Show them what we are." "That was before," she says. "I'm nothing now." She falls to her knees, runs her hand through the dirt. A green monster like a 7-legged incredible Hulk runs across the field and leaps over the home run fence into the starry abyss. A moment later, a huge flying hairless ferret thing arcs across the field, snatches up the monster, and flaps away into the stars. The monster screams, trailing a rain of golden blood. Jenna doesn't look up. I squat down and lift her chin. Her eyes are as red as stoplights. "You're not nothing, Jenna. You're everything to me." She frowns, points a shaking finger up. "He says I'm nothing. He says we're all nothing, doesn't he?" I look up at a sky filled with 2 bright stars, even though the sun is up and shining, at the giant pieces of earth that drift lazily overhead, entire towns and cities uprooted and tossed into space, never to fall back down. What can I say to comfort her? It's your turn, Jenna. You have to play. 10 weeks earlier, the afternoon of my first day of 9th grade, I lined up my bike behind a dozen other kids, waiting my turn to trick out on the track. That was our name for the curvy, jump-laden BMX bike course some kids had built years back with shovels and dirt in the wooded preserve. Each year some parent inevitably got wind of it, had the town bulldoze it flat, and each year some industrious kids rebuilt it, with improvements on the original design. Far from the eyes of parents or cops, the track had become a sacred place where kids could trick out without helmets or pads, smoke cigarettes, and make out behind the trees. Everyone who was anyone was here, decked out in their new threads. It seemed as if every kid had remade himself for the new year. I felt like anything was possible, that I too could make myself into whatever I wanted. My friend Vinny, new Adidas pants and sneakers, Lakers cap, leaned in close on his bike and excitedly showed me a picture of what was supposed to be Pamela Houston's cleavage. With careful pinches, Vinny vigorously zoomed in and out on the screen of his cell phone, as if there was some cosmic secret hidden in the pixels. All I saw was a blotch of color. Dude, he said, she sits right next to me. I'm so going to love math this year. To show him up, I whipped out my new droid. 4 calls from Mom and 2 messages, but I ignored them and waited impatiently as my webpage trickled in. Last night I created 6 new levels for the game Nimbus, an open-sourced first-person shooter that had become more popular than Jesus over the past few months. Check out this fucking maze I built. No one's getting out of this death trap. Dude, you're such a geek, Vinny said. I'm showing you tits and you're showing me your game levels? I felt disappointed. I spent hours building worlds in Nimbus, and Vinny was usually excited to see them. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. Vinny twisted his head with his hands, looked like he was trying to tear it from his skull. I heard a crack. When some people were anxious, they cracked their knuckles. Vinny cracked his neck. So why are we here again, he said. I spotted Maeve and Elsa walking toward us, all dolled up in their brightly colored, knee-length jackets, trying to avoid getting dirt on the new fabric. I gestured at them with my chin. Maeve's in my world studies class, I said. Just saying her name made my heart skip a beat. I told her I bike and she got all excited. My phone buzzed, Mom again, and I sent her a voicemail. Oh, so that's why you dragged me here with these douchebags, Vinny said. Maeve is a hottie. I'd totally like to. Shut up, I said. Here they come. Don't be a dick. Girls don't like that. What? Girls don't like my dick? He smiled wickedly at me. Shut up. I had a crush on Maeve since spring of last year when we shared a square dance circle in gym class. Her hands had been so warm, but back then she'd been with Christopher Black, a kid who liked to wear plaid and who probably should have started shaving in 7th grade, but had let his peach fuzz grow until it resembled a patch of blonde mold. Rumor had it that they'd broken up over the summer, and since then I tried to learn everything I could about her. Hi Vin, hi Russ, Maeve said, smiling. Her cheeks were pink with cold, her black bob of hair half hidden by a gray knitted cap with tassels. Elsa ran a finger slowly around her hoop earrings. Both girls wore Ray-Ban glasses, prescription, which had for some reason become the most necessary thing, trademark, over the summer, and now all the girls whose moms could afford to buy them sported a pair. Maeve's cherry red ones made her look like a punked-out NASA engineer. Are you up soon, she said. In my best attempt at laid-back cool, I said, yeah, after Mike, but my voice cracked like I just hit puberty. Frog in your throat, Elsa said, mocking me. The girls giggled. My face grew hot and I fumbled to save myself. What my castrato friend here is trying to say, Vinny said, is wait till you see his backside. Backside air, that is. I shook my head, but the girls laughed, and all was well again. Maeve stared at me. She looked expectant, her irises the color of fall grasses, a swirl of green and brown, and pupils little dark pits that threatened to suck me in forever. She let slip a shy, wonderful little smile at me. I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just cheered as Eric Kellerman landed a jump. I sucked at flirting, and my hacking skills weren't going to get me girls anytime soon, but I kicked ass at BMX. I had a growing reputation in the school as that 8-track kid who bikes. I preferred that to the previous year's moniker of that nerd who hangs out with Vinny. And I thought, if I tricked out a bit in front of Maeve, got some sick air, then maybe she'd be impressed. And if the afternoon went really well, we'd go behind the trees and my heart hammered. This was going to be a good year. I heard you were good, Elsa said. She whipped out a pack of Marlboro Lights from her pocket and lit the last one, the one turned around for good luck. Maeve smiled and swayed restlessly, the tassels of her hat swinging back and forth against her head like a Tibetan drum. Can you do a full twirl, she said. You mean a 360? I blushed. Sure. Awesome, she said. I love that. I couldn't believe she was paying this much attention to me, that both girls were. I had shed my nerdiness like I'd shed junior high. I couldn't stop smiling. Vinny poked me in the arm and said, Dude, is that who I think it is? I turned to see a frazzled woman dressed in green scrubs walking between the kids and their bikes. Her presence here was impossible, and for a moment it didn't register. Then I remembered the phone calls. Russell? Is Russell Broward here? Everyone turned to look at her, then me. Oh God, I whispered. I turned my back, pretending not to hear, hoping she'd vanish. Russell! She sounded like she was calling for a lost dog. She spotted me, stormed right across the track, and Eric Kellerman nearly clobbered her as he came around the turn. "Is that your mom?" Maeve said. She squinted at me. "My mom? Oh yeah. You told her about the track?" Maeve pushed her glasses up her nose as if taking me in. I didn't think she'd like what she saw. I couldn't see her irises anymore, only the dull gray rectangles of reflected sky. My mom strode up to us and put her hands on her hips. She took a long look at Elsa, who hid her cigarette behind her back, and turned to me. "Why didn't you answer my calls? I thought I told you to come home after school." "What are you doing here?" I snapped. Her hair was a mangled mess, and her lipstick had missed her lips, fallen on her cheek. Ever since Dad had died 2 years back, she'd always had the appearance of going somewhere and never arriving. "They called me to cover a shift, and I need you to babysit your sister." "Now?" "Yes, now, Russell. And where's your helmet?" She looked around. "All you kids should be wearing helmets." She stared at Elsa, who had been trying not to giggle. "Does your mother know you smoke? You know teenage smoking increases your risk of breast cancer 70%. Oh God, this wasn't happening. Elsa said, "My mom buys me all my packs." Maeve laughed, but quickly silenced herself when my mother glared at her. "Come on, Russell." Humiliated, I muttered goodbye to them. "Later, man," Vinny said mournfully. Elsa seemed annoyed, and Maeve frowned. I heard Elsa mock, "Teenage smoking increases your risk of breast cancer 70%. And someone shouted, "Mommy says Russell can't come out and play," and a bunch of kids laughed. I hung my head as I followed my mom through the trees and out onto the road, where her Honda CR-V idled. Jenna sat in the back seat playing Derek Jeter's World of Baseball on her pink pocket console as my mom opened the hatchback. I threw my bike in, got in the passenger seat, and slammed the door. "I don't like your attitude, Russell." I was on the verge of tears. "Couldn't call a stupid babysitter?" "I'm sorry, Russell, but there was no one else." The tires screeched as we pulled away. I looked into the back seat, Jenna in her pink jacket playing her pink handheld game. She was humming happily to herself. I wanted to scream. I left money on the table. "You can order a pizza. I want you in bed by 11, your sister by 9, and no playing video games till your homework's done." Jenna said, "Let's play baseball when we get home. Mom bought me a new mitt." "I'm not playing with you, loser," I said. "Hey, don't you dare talk to your sister that way," Mom said. "You'll play with her, or no video games for a month." I crossed my arms, sulked, and Jenna returned her attention to her pocket game. "You're not like him," she said. "What?" Dad would always play with me when I asked. Mom sighed deeply as she raced down Ocean Avenue towards home, speeding through a yellow light. Just 10 minutes ago, my high school future had held so much promise. Now everyone would be talking about Russell Broward, the kid whose mom picks him up from the track. I'd be a dork in their eyes forever. "I hate you," I whispered. "What did you say?" We zoomed past 3 kids popping wheelies, laughing as they raced toward the preserve. "I fucking hate you both." Jenna's tears have run out, which is good because the white-skinned creepy in left field has begun to dig up the grasses and vomit jewels into the holes. The others are fidgeting too. This game won't last much longer. Jenna stands, wipes her cheeks, and with a jab to the ground, frees the bat of its donut. I straighten her hat, give her my best smile, and pat her backside as she steps up to the plate. The catcher is some sort of shapeless ball of worms, which reminds me of the squirming things I once found in our cat Lucifer's shit. But this creepy is exceptionally good at catching the ball and returning it to the yellow-eyed pitcher on cue. It says to Jenna, "Your knot rot is repulsive to us," which I assume is some sort of insult intended to upset her hitting ability. Yeah, these creepies learn fast. Jenna steps into the batter's box, and the many-toothed cat tosses 3 pitches, all balls, the umpire declares. Jenna takes them all with the steadiness of a mountain. The next pitch, Jenna swings. For a 10-year-old, she's got quite the upper body strength. The ball makes a metallic ping as it connects with the bat, flies over my head to crash into the windshield of a car. Foul ball, the umpire declares, and distantly, something not quite human screams. "Come on, Jenna, you can hit the ball," I cheer. "No pitcher, no pitcher." The pitcher's eyes flicker like moonlit gold. She takes the pitch. It's clearly high and outside, but the umpire calls, "Strike 2. "What?" I storm towards him, cursing. "That was totally high and away." "Step away from me," the fish creature says. or I will devour your immortal self. He spreads his bat-like wings, and on his scaly hide I see dozens of tiny faces crying out in pain. I leap back, horrified. Don't worry, Russell, I've got this, Jenna says, and her defiance centers me. These creepies got nothing on me. Who are you calling creepy, the worm creature says. I step back to my place beside the dugout as the pitcher lofts the next pitch. I hold my breath as Jenna swings, and connects. A line drive flies over the second baseman's head to land in right field. Jenna screams with joy and sprints to first. A creepy made of 1,000 hands with eyeballs in their palms fields the ball. It catapults it to the shortstop covering second by rolling end over end. I tell Jenna to hold up at first. If she's the tying run, we may win this game after all. I hit it! I did it! Jenna screams over and over. She falls to the ground, hysterically laughing or crying. I can't tell which. 3 weeks after that awful first day of school, the leaves had fallen, and so had my hopes of being anything other than what I was last year, that nerd who hung out with Vinny. I went to the track a few times, but Maeve was never there, and when I passed her in the hall, she just nodded politely and kept on walking. And whenever I brought up the subject with Vinny, he just cracked his neck and said, "Tragic." As Mr. Verini droned on about the Peloponnesian War, I stared out the window at the approaching black clouds. I hoped for a violent thunderstorm, something to break my boredom. I watched Maeve's left hand scrawl out neatly handwritten notes and wondered how it was possible to sit so close to her and yet be so far away. Last week I heard she started dating Eric Kellerman, and I couldn't help but wonder if I stayed at the track that first day of school, it would be me. I decided that when I got home, I'd trash the new Nimbus game levels I created, even if they gave Vinny a hard-on. They bored me, and I had ideas for new ones, better ones, with 100-story skyscrapers and bridges that spanned chasms of fire. I started to sketch them out in my notebook when the room shook with thunder. The lights flickered, Diana Galena yelped, and the class laughed. "Settle down," Mr. Verini said. He resumed his lesson, would not be thwarted by mere weather, but the next tremor knocked the corkboard from the wall, and a look of worry crossed his face. I glanced at Maeve, whose mouth was open as if to speak. Then it happened. A tremendous groan and screech, like a battleship being torn in two. The lights sparked and went out. Everyone screamed. In the twilight, I saw a wall come rushing towards me. I panicked, covered my head. I must have passed out, because when I opened my eyes, everything was quiet. My legs were covered with broken cinder blocks, but somehow my head had ended up under a desk. My legs were cut and bleeding, but numbed by adrenaline, I managed to free myself from the rubble. I stood on a heap of fallen stone, shivered in the strangely warm air, and looked around me. The school was destroyed. Crooked rebar poked from steaming piles of shattered stone. Small fires burned. Trapped kids cried, their voices muffled by tons of concrete. The sky shined with an endless spray of stars, a sky like you'd see in the deepest, darkest woods. But that didn't make sense because the sun was up and glowing, bright as noon, giving everything long, strange shadows that shook like rattlesnake tails. And there were mountains in the air. No, not mountains. It seemed as if whole towns had been ripped from the earth and flung into the sky. I blinked, shivered, didn't understand what I was seeing, when I heard cries beneath me. Under a pile of broken cinder blocks was a hand, a pen still wrapped in its fingers. I tossed away stones, revealing a shoulder, a neck, a head. Her cherry-red Ray-Bans had snapped in two. Her eyes were open, unblinking, pushed from their sockets. I turned away, threw up. I heard more cries, heaved more stones, but I quickly realized that I couldn't do this alone. I listened but heard no sirens, no evidence of help arriving. I walked in a daze around the school trying to convince myself this was just a bad dream when I saw a figure at the edge of the school property. He twisted his neck, cracking it. I ran to him screaming, "Vinny, Vinny, oh my God, what happened? An earthquake? God, Maeve's dead. She's dead, Vinny. What's wrong with the sky?" I spoke so quickly I didn't realize I was crying.
Is it that bad?
He stared calmly at me, waited for me to finish. And that's when I realized his skin had a pale glow, that through his expressionless face, I could see the crumbled houses on the other side of the street. He twisted his neck, released. I didn't hear a crack. Vinny? He twisted his neck again and again and again. Vinny, what's happening? All around me, see-through kids and teachers climbed out of the smoking rubble. They seemed confused, lost. I poked and prodded, shook and slapped, but none woke from their mindless trance. Listen to me, goddammit! And as if choreographed, all heads turned in my direction together. Terrified, I ran. 5 blocks away on a street which had buckled up, as if the earth had been unzipped, I ran out of breath, and I remembered. Oh God, Jenna, Mom. I ran past dozens of translucent people on my way to Birch Lane Elementary, gave them a wide berth, which was just as well because they didn't seem interested in me, or for that matter, anything at all. Houses had collapsed, and mindless people milled about upturned yards, standing, staring. I tried to ignore the sky, but was mesmerized by a billion overbright stars and an asteroid belt made of stones etched with the circuit board landscape of cities, leaking water from broken sewers in long, sparkling tails. I found her sitting on the curb in front of the school, her Hello Kitty knapsack